Okay, here's part 2 of my Inception review. Uh, where did we leave off? Oh yes, uh, Sato. Well, first of all, I want to get into the one the one hole I see in the plot is Cobb not being able to go back to the States. He apparently is like well financed mind criminal. Uh, how he can't smuggle himself back in the United States, it's never really explained. He can't just get a fake. I mean, he's running around the globe. He's working for these big multinational corporations that don't, the one that he just doesn't do the job for. They send like a ton of assassins in the real world after him to hunt him down. So obviously these are big, resourceful groups he's working with, and at no point, I mean, he has to send gifts through his father or father-in-law. It's not really explained. Back to his children. He can do phone calls to his children. Why he doesn't, get a fake ID and or go to Mexico and just walk across the border is beyond me. They have the resources to do that. I mean, maybe it's 5 years and they've really got the border situation and passport faking really down. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that he has to resort to this. He just can't see his children. Like, he can't sneak into the country and see them for like a weekend. It's beyond me. I don't know. It's the only plot hole, but it's not a really big plot hole, I suppose. You don't think about it too much. But basically, Sato wants... Normally, Sato's job is different from most. He wants, instead of them extracting information, to implant an ideal, which is considered harder because if you just give somebody the ideal in a dream, they know it's not theirs. They know somebody else told them the ideal. It's like if I told you to go jump off a bridge, you didn't think of jumping off the bridge. This other guy just told you to, so you don't do it. So they have to be very subtle in how they kind of come up with this ideal, which requires them to go through several layers of mind, and several layers of dreams. And every time you go through a layer of dream, you basically go into a deeper part of your subconscious. So it becomes harder to pull you out, and it's also, every time they also have to leave somebody behind in the previous dream in order to make sure they wake up and administer the whole program, which leads to why there's, at some point in the story, 4 different stories and 4 different action scenes going on technically at the same time. And another weird thing they do is every time you go deeper, if you just go into a dream, 5 minutes seem like an hour, but if you go into a dream within a dream, that's even longer. So if you go deep enough, you can be in there for just a very short amount of time, and it can take you can go through decades in a very short amount of time. So that's how they do this weird. It's halfway through the movie. They're in a dream, and they're in a van, and they drive off a bridge in order to wake everybody up. But the van takes like half the movie, so every time they cut, it's like falling a little bit more down, and you kind of get that throughout the rest of the film. It's just people waking up one after the other, and it probably sounds like I'm saying it's overly complicated. It's really well done, and this is why Nolan is great, because most directors would not be able to handle telling something this complex. Nolan's able to relay that information. I'm sure there's people out there that have like no idea what's going on. There are people that just can't follow a story and need it very simple. You should take those people to see Transformers. I actually didn't mind Transformers that bad. It wasn't not good compared to this, but I'm getting digressed here again. So DiCaprio's got to form a new team. They have to get somebody. Before I explain this, DiCaprio, because of his wife's. See, this is what I'm talking about. There's so many different layers. In order to explain one thing, you have to explain a bunch of others. Let's just get DiCaprio's wife. She died because they both were experimenting with this technology, which apparently was originally developed by the Department of Defense to just have a really realistic training simulation. Because if you get shot while you're in the dream, you feel like you get shot and all that. If you feel pain and everything else, when you wake up, thankfully, this is again much smarter than the Matrix in design. If you get killed, you just wake up, unless you're sedated, unless there's something chemically forcing you to sleep, in which case you wind up going into like this extreme subconscious. And that's what they have to do in order to do this really deep Inception, which is what they do, the idea of implanting someone in the mind. Most people think it's impossible, but DiCaprio's character knows it's possible because he did it. Fortunately, did it with his wife. They both went under and they went to the extreme subconscious, where, a few minutes or an hour can seem like 50 years. And he was starting to realize they're living in a dream world. They really have to get out. They did have kids. So he basically implants the ideal in her mind that the world is fake and the only way to escape is to kill yourself. Because if you kill yourself in a dream, you wake up. The only problem is, after he did this and woke up, she was feeling this about the real world too, and so she eventually took her own life and tried to get him to join along. So she basically had set it up so that, well, if he didn't take his life, it would look like it was murder. So you really don't have any choice but to jump, and that's what she does. She kind of throws herself out the window, and with the idea that it'll force him to jump out as well, but didn't go as the crazy lady planned. But this is how he knows Inception's possible, because he did it and it had bad consequences. This one, luckily, it's not, I'm going to kill myself. It's, I'm just going to break up my father's company, because apparently it's getting too big for Sato. It's like own half the world's energy or something along that. So that's mainly to invest the audience into wanting us to break up this company. And it doesn't mention how big Sato's company is and whether he's going to acquire all these little spots and make him be the next giant. But we're kind of led to believe, just so we have some sympathy with the characters and their goal. Even though the only person that seems nice in the entire movie is the guy they're going in. Robert Fisher is his name, played by Cillian Murphy, who was from he was Scarecrow in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. He's like the only nice person. This was said in the IGN review, but he's like the only nice person. Like, really, he's got some daddy issues because his father was always away from him and not that close. But he actually seems like a really nice guy. Like, if there's going to be big corporations running the world, this guy seems like it would be the best person to have in charge. Because the other big corporate guy we see is Sato, and he is he's not the most savory of characters. And the only other corporation we have is the corporation that hired Cobb to go after Sato, and because Cobb just failed to fully complete their contract, it's not like we're just going to withhold our funds from you and not pay you. No, we're going to send a bunch of assassins after you. So I don't know. Maybe Fisher running things would have been better, but alas. And now I know I got sidetracked there, but bringing back to the wife, she killed herself. That's why he's on the run. But he has her subconscious projection of her is always running around in his dreams because he has that serious connection, and she's always trying to screw with his stuff, informing the people that are in the dream world what's going on, trying to kill them within the dream, just to screw with his stuff and break it, because she's like a bad force. Somebody just came in. I got distracted. You know what? I'm going to continue this in part 3, so stay tuned for that.